you with us today and getting this very opportunity to interact with you.
Thank you.
I would like to begin with that you mentioned that yoga is a way of life based on an enlightened view of life. How do you explain that, sir?
This rather complicated sentence became necessary because yoga is commonly equated with a set of physical practices. And at the most we add meditation to it. Now both these physical practices and meditation are merely techniques for improving the performance of the body and the mind. But that is desirable, of course, but it's not sufficient, because the body and the mind are mere instruments, and an instrument can be used in so many ways. For example, if we have a sharp knife, we can use it to chop fruits and vegetables, but with the same sharp knife we can also stab somebody. In the same way, suppose a person has been able to use some techniques to improve the performance of the body and the mind, he can use this body and mind now for becoming a better doctor, a better engineer, a better computer scientist, or a better manager, because in all these things he will use the body and the mind together. It's the body-mind complex that we basically use for everything that we do. But then come to think of it, unless a terrorist is also physically fit, emotionally stable, and intellectually agile, he will not be able to launch a successful terrorist attack. Which means that like the knife, the body and the mind also being instruments can be used either way, and they'll help on one hand a teacher to do her job better, but they'll also help the terrorist to do his job better. And therefore yoga will not certainly qualify as a spiritual discipline if it just had techniques for improving the performance of the body and the mind, which could be used equally by the teacher and the terrorist. What makes it a spiritual discipline is the fact that here the improvement of the performance of the instruments is only to prepare the base to be able to use these instruments according to a certain view of life. And that is what makes it a spiritual discipline. And certainly if one way to put it would be that yoga has not only the techniques for improving the performance of the body and the mind, it also provides guidance for how the body and the mind may be used. And that is what makes it a way of life and a 24-hour discipline. One may spend only an hour or two on the techniques which improve the performance of the body and the mind, but then the rest of the time these instruments are being used. And yoga provides also the guidance for using these instruments, and the type of guidance that it provides will certainly not make the person a terrorist. In fact, it will provide the type of guidance which will bring the best out of the person, and it will be a guidance which will be in keeping with a spiritual philosophy. That's what makes yoga a spiritual discipline.